Welcome to the world of sci-fi stories, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the channel. Enjoy the listening. We trembled behind stealth fields. Then human voices made us brave. When our people reached the stars we met, only a few species who were peaceful during first contact, but after the 5 who now make up our federation we have known only strife. Countless new species have proven to be exceedingly violent, some even to the point of needing to be erased from the galaxy. But in the end, the damage was done. We became a fearful people, and so we watched new species from afar, ensuring they would not be aggressive. When we revealed ourselves to this end, we developed cloaking devices and sensor masking systems of unparalleled quality. Even our ships became geared more towards stealth in their appearances, blending into the great dark. With such ease, we could drift quietly past an enemy ship, and were anyone to look out a window, we would never be seen. For the most part, this worked, and the Federation of Unity grew in size slowly as we quietly added more peaceful nations to our roster. But it was so very slow, almost too slow already. The more warlike species that were not part of our federation was starting to band together, their alliance tenuous but disturbingly powerful all the same. And that's when we met them, or rather we heard them. Humanity a year before we made contact. The ship that encountered them is called the Aranda. To humanity, it is little more than a stealth frigate. It serves as a reconnaissance and exploratory vessel, slipping into uncharted space without detection and seeing everything there was to see. But they did not see this, oh no, as stated. They instead heard them. The humans were at the time beginning their expansion deeper into what was to them uncharted space, and much as we had, they had deployed a small vessel of their own. Theirs, however, was not as stealthy as ours, and when the encounter took place, they did not even notice us. What follows is a transcript of the encounter. Captain Torgan rang out his tentacles, his gelatinous form shuddering within his uniform. Such as it was, he could never shake that little fearful voice in the back of his head that whispered such terrifying things whenever his ship and crew encountered a new species like this. Every time they slid past another ship, silent as the void itself, he worried that perhaps this time they would be detected and fired upon before they could get their shields up. The ship that would soon cross their path was angular and a touch blocky in places. It exuded a predatory aura. Yet according to subtle scans, it was lightly armed and armored. A scout, much like themselves, but even a scout ship could still do significant damage, especially in a one-on-one duel. But thankfully they'd have the element of surprise should the worst come to pass. Seeing as this ship was not running silent at all, it was like they wanted to be found to be seen. It was as you sued. Really, any course changes by the unknown vessel tone asked softly, a special communication system picking up the whispered words and relaying them to the rest of his senior staff. The tactical officer looked over their spiked shoulders and shook their head. That was a relief. It meant they hadn't been detected yet, or if they had been, the aliens were uncaring of their presence for the time being. There was every possibility that things would go badly, and Torgan really hoped it wouldn't evolve into a fight. Any idea who they are? What do the scans say? He asked, and the science officer frowned slightly before looking up. Sending the data your way, sir, they said. And indeed he had the scans on his terminal almost immediately. Togan's many eyes widened at the data he was given. Bipedal mammal, but also quite clearly predators, or at least that was what their bodily configuration suggested. Subtle breaches into their data banks had given him some extra info about the society these mammals came from, and their past was riddled with destruction and death. Yet there were counters to this, and he saw plenty of evidence that suggested they would make for good friends, if a bit violent when needed. As far as the ship's complement went, there were only 20 distinct life signs aboard, whereas the Aranda carried 40 souls. It was a small ship these humans commanded, intimate one might say, but it was purpose-built for minimal crew and some light automation. It was perfect for the job it was doing. Still, he was worried about revealing himself without getting a better idea of just who these particular Humans were and was about to give a new order when the comms officer squinted with a frown, then looked up. "Sir, the internal communication system just lit up aboard that ship, but it's weird, they aren't talking about us. But they singing," she said, and Torgan frowned softly. Singing was not new to him. He sang often, yet in private never would he have dared pipe his singing through the internal comms. "Either put it through the speakers." Quietly he said, wondering if perhaps they would be listening to the drums of war in a moment, or something else. His hope for the latter was realized as the voices of harmonious humanity filtered around the bridge. "We're hardy souls on the ocean. Flow, heave ho, onwards we row, forever off to new shores we go. Heave ho, onwards we row." Togan blinked, confusion coloring his expression before it continued, and he found himself floating on a sea of imagery. "We sail so long and so far from home, we brave the storms and the cold, from port to port on the waves we roam. We're venturesome and bold, we're hardy souls on the oceans. Flow, heave ho, onwards we row. The waves they roar, and the gales they blow. Heave ho, onwards we row." He snapped out of the trance long enough to see some of his crew swaying to the lyrics, to the minimal music played behind the words. "No pillow soft, and no lover's breast. The cold it rips through the nights. We long to lay on a gentle chest and hold warm bodies tight. We're hardy souls on the oceans. Flow, heave ho, onwards we row. The sailor's labor is all we know. Eve ho, onwards we row." Togan heard a soft sniffle from his EXO, which was surprising, as his EXO species never got so emotional about anything unless they were personally insulted. But this was not an angry sniffle. It was one of understanding, of sympathy, and a longing for exact what the humans were yearning for themselves. "And the wind lifts our songs and our arms. They are strong over oceans and rivers we glide. Lift our sails in our hands, we will ride to new lands, many voyages on many tides. We're hardy souls on the ocean's flow. Heave ho, onwards we row, forever off to new shores we go. Heave ho, onwards we row." And it was over just like that. The human ship fell silent, not a peep out of them. Whatever spontaneous urge to sing, as they had now faded, onwards they went, cutting through the void, while Tan's bridge crew sniffled or openly wept. It took 20 long minutes for the crew to recover themselves, long enough to think properly, and when they came to their senses, so too did Gon Helm bring us about, put us on a long intercept course with that ship. "Comms, prepare to open a hailing frequency with that ship," he said, his voice shaky. It was a massive breach of protocol and Federation law, but nobody balked at his breaking of said protocols or laws, not even his EXO, so moved were they by these strange beings who sang into the void. Humanity was overjoyed to have found a group of species like us, and though Captain Torgan was severely punished for his breaking of Federation law, we could not deny that in doing so, he secured for us an alliance that has endured proudly till this day, and an everlasting friendship as well. It's been nearly 2 centuries since humanity joined our Federation, and with them at our side, nobody sails alone anymore.